Now you might be wondering how to address this particular concept which is called division, and this here comes from two ways by which you can represent division, or this can be represented as in terms of representation. We need to recognize that this can be shown either in terms of fractions and or in terms of using a formula symbol, and this symbol involves this particular dot with a line and a dot below it, while for fraction we recognize it in terms of what? We recognize it in terms of the numerator divided by or over denominator. And these numbers, you need to take into account that the denominator must be a non-zero number, and once you recognize that, we are going to address the numerator and denominator as a fraction related to division and symbols, where we have a specific number that is represented as a triangle divided by, which is using this symbol for division, another number which is represented as a specific rectangle. And so in this particular part, looking at representation and how we're going to move into the components of division, there are two components to division, and these components are recognized based on the question that will be given to you. One is the use of a particular term which is known as the dividend, and this dividend is usually expressed as in terms of fraction, the numerator, or in terms of symbol, the first number before the division sign, and this is represented as the triangle, while the other one is represented as what? The divisor. And the divisor is expressed as either denominator for your fraction or the symbol after it, which is the number, represented as the divisor. And so those are the things to keep in mind in this particular part related to division, questions, and how it is expressed as. Now the next part is, how about we want to determine the next step, and this next step involves determining the answer. How will the answer look like in terms of the terminology? One is known as the quotient, and this quotient can be shown in your answer form for fraction as, in this case, quotient. Now the quotient is usually accompanied with another term which is known as the remainder, and the remainder is what is left after the quotient, which means the number of items that is not up to the divisor number. We're going to look at how this is applicable to a long division for this video, and this long division for the setup is going to enable us to figure out how this strategy will combine both your divisor and dividend together to give us our quotient and remainder. The criteria comes from first identifying the symbol, and this symbol enables us to set up first our long division, where inside this symbol we have our dividend, which is going to occupy that space. In this part here we have the number which represents the dividend, either for fraction is expressed as the numerator, or for the symbol is expressed before the symbol, while the other side, which is the outside of your symbol here, this is shown in this particular manner as or occupied by the divisor, and the divisor is usually the denominator for fraction or the number that is after the division sign. Once we have this is the question and how the question is going to be set up. And then above your dividend, which is above the symbol, we are going to have something that's going to be occupied as we move along, which is called the quotient. And then at the bottom we have what is called to be the remainder, and the remainder is after you perform the last subtraction possible. We're going to look at what the quotient actually set up is like in terms of criteria for the overall division method. Now for the quotient, we need to realize that when your quotient is greater than 1, we have our dividend, which is going to be the specific number which is before the division sign, or the numerator to be greater than the divisor. So in this case, for the fraction, we're going to have some form of an improper fraction that is going to look like this, and that is what our quotient means when it is greater than 1 as our answer. Next is when you have your quotients to be equal to 1, it means that we have our dividend to be what? Equal to our divisor. And what that means is that for our fraction, either we have a whole number, or for our numerator is equal to our denominator. And then finally for our quotient, when you have your quotient to be between what? 0 and 1, but not equal to 0 and not equal to 1, it means that our dividend is what? Less than our divisor. And so what that means is that we have a proper fraction where our numerator is less than our denominator, or for our specific setup for division as shown right here, the triangle is less, which is before the division sign, than that of the number after it. So if you have a big number that comes last and a small number that is first, you're most likely going to have, or definitely going to have, a result that is less than 1 more than 0. And so that is how it looks like for our quotient answers. Now for our remainder, we have the other case scenario, which implies two things that are going to be noticed for our remainder. Either you have a 0 remainder, which means that we have our dividend to be what? To be a multiple of what? Of our divisor. Or on the other hand, we have a non-zero number, which means that our dividend is not a multiple of what? Our divisor. And this is how it looks like for our criteria, not only in terms of our remainder for these two to be established, but also for our quotient, which shows the 3 criteria that meets our quotient. I hope you found this really informative. On our next video, we're going to look at how to follow the necessary steps in order for we to fully accomplish dividend, divisor, quotient, and remainder for long division, and all the rules that accompanies that. See you all on the next one. Stay smart as always, and believe in yourselves.